listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rangers Radio. We got Zook, we got Steven. Steven is in Arizona right now in a car filming a documentary. That's what it looks like he's doing.
I'm being responsible. Somebody's holding the phone. I'm not texting and driving. We're all good.
So this episode is going to be complete chaos, but it's fitting because the Four Nations tournament has been complete chaos, and tonight's game will be the same way. It's turned from what people thought would be a fake tournament during the NHL All-Star break to an ultra-competitive tournament that's now become political propaganda for numerous people. It's just an insane time, and the NHL, dare I say, finally hit on some type of event. It's been a complete awesome display of hockey, and it's generating a ton of people that we didn't think were ever going to watch the sport and bringing eyes to the game. So it's been awesome to see. I think they had 10.1 million people watching across North America the last time U.S. and Canada played on Saturday. Tonight, I'm expecting a few more. But before we dive into all that stuff, how are you boys doing?
Do you guys remember the last episode we had when we talked about this 2-week break? We're going to have nothing to talk about?
Yep.
It was the dumbest thing we could have said.
Well, yeah, no one is stupider than me. I'm such a goddamn asshole for thinking that this wasn't going to be exciting. This is so exciting. Could they maybe have accomplished the same thing with just playing U.S. versus Canada? Sure, because that is what has a lot to do with it. Would I be nearly as high?
No, this kid and his mic.
Cut out.
It's just it's every week. We got an annual Zook.
It's the headphones when they unplug it shuts off my mic. So now I'm just gonna hold them in with my hands. But yeah, if it was Finland or Sweden, I wouldn't be as hyped for it. Obviously, a little bit of the political side of it brings some juice to it, but just Canada and U.S. and hockey is what it's about. I mean, it's been like that for years. You can look at a lot of the past tournaments. The USA and Canada has always found themselves in some bigger games, but I mean, everyone saw what that first game brought. 9 seconds in, we saw 3 fights. I think we're going to see some similar stuff tonight. I don't know if the gloves are going to drop, but we know the hits, there's going to be some extra oomph. We know everyone's going to back check. We know everyone's going to forecheck. Everyone's going to leave it all out on the ice. It will hurt me a lot more if they lose than I thought it would be. I thought this was a tournament that no one cared. It was just going to be fun where people can play with some guys that they haven't gotten to play with in the past, but they're obviously friends with because they're all stars in the NHL, and those people kind of operate in the same circles. But facts are facts, and we've heard what these players have said. You know, even to some, some hate that the players have gotten with fans, where players are saying this is the biggest game they've ever played. And, you got some loser Ranger fans out there. Oh my God, I can't believe Adam Fox said it. Whatever, man. Whatever. This is a huge, 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 huge game that I want to win. And you know what? Just to be honest, I don't feel great about it. I'm super hyped, but if you held a gun to my head and you said you had to pick the winner of this game, I mean, Canada probably outplayed us in that first game, but you get a good goalie and you play and you get some pucks to bounce your way, and that's all you got to do in the game of hockey. So I know the boys are going to come out to play tonight. If we thought Saturday was a ruckus, this is going to be 60 minutes of legit balls to the walls. And like you said, Brendan, similar to what the Olympics have done for us in the past, specifically the TJ Oshie moments, I think a lot of new hockey fans are going to be found during the next 20, 25 games because of what's happened this last week.
Yeah, it's been a great tournament so far. And I think that, like you said, there's been elements. Obviously, U.S. and Canada has had the most elements that have generated that viewership and new fans coming on board. But every single game of the tournament has had moments like that. I mean, it started off with Sweden, Canada going to OT. Nobody predicted that. U.S. and Finland was really close, and then U.S. broke it open in the third. Sweden, Finland, that has its own rivalry. That was a great hockey game. So the games have all been relatively close and competitive throughout. It's been fun to watch, and the U.S.-Canada game was just 3 fights, like you said. I don't think we're seeing 3 fights in the championship game. I think it's going to be a little bit more controlled than that, more controlled chaos. But McCarr's back for Canada. He didn't play in that game Saturday. McAvoy did, and he's out for U.S. And without Quinn Hughes playing, like you said, I'm not as confident as I was going into that Saturday game, but ultimately, two really good teams. You can't really go wrong with who the replacements are. And Adam Fox should get some more minutes. So that's what Rangers fans really wanted. And don't hate on the guy for saying this is the biggest game of his career. All of them are kind of saying a similar thing. The viewership dictates that this is more like a Stanley Cup final than it is an Eastern Conference final game. So I think it is probably the biggest game that he's played in his career, and I'm fine with that. So Steven saw all the players going to Cabo. He was like, I got to go somewhere warm too.
Listen, playing for your country means so much more than playing for the team.
I agree.
Like it's not a weird thing to say, but I mean to sit here and to know that there are people talking about the sport that 2 weeks ago could not give a shit about what was going to go on this week was fantastic. But in that, being able to have a U.S.-Canada, Zook, like you mentioned, final, like if this was Sweden-Canada or Sweden-U.S., you wouldn't draw the same crowd. But the what seems like pure hatred now for each other is what is going to get probably the largest crowd, at least on television, ever watching a hockey game, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, and the betting handle I was reading is like higher than like the average of like every Stanley Cup game in recent memory. And just even talking about the gambling side of it in Vegas, that's what makes me the most confident. Because I was telling, like, me and my friends were talking about it, and we're like, even though we won, Canada probably looked better than us. They're getting back Makar. I was going to guess they would be about like minus 130, minus 135. The fact that it's minus 110 both ways just means like literally this game is probably going to live up to all the hype. Vegas has no idea what's going to happen. It's people at the top of their game playing as hard as they possibly could. And, you know, they're going to drop the puck and whatever happens, happens. But it's nice to know that no matter what happens, the team that you're rooting for is going to leave it all out there for 60 minutes. It's not going to be a case of effort or skill. If you get beat, it's just because for that 60 minutes, the other team played better than you. But man, oh man, do I want to win this game.
So be honest. Have either of you listened to Herb Brooks today to get some motivational quotes going? Because I know I listened to the full pregame speech from Miracle. I'm sitting here at work ready to run through a wall.
Some of my friends said that, and for me, like, this whole episode is going to be about how cool the Four Nations is, but let's also rear it back a little bit. I have friends saying this game should be at Lake Placid. Like,
oh, no.
It still is the Four Nations during the All-Star break. And I'm someone who was shitting on it before, and I'm totally 180ing it on that. And it is a fantastic event, but it's not Miracle. It's not Lake Placid. I think for what we're seeing right now, next year in Italy is going to be this like 5X just because it does have that side of the Olympics. But
again, it's in Italy.
Yeah, that's true. But
which kind of kills that vibe a little bit.
This is going to be insane. Actually, the nice thing about Italy is I was looking at the time difference. Those games will be about like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. during the workday. So it's going to be like when the World Cup is in one of those countries where like the U.S. just stops like during work those times and everyone turns it on. And I also saw the groups, if Russia's allowed in, will be in the same group as Russia, I was reading. So those will be pretty intense games, and then it'll line up for us to play Canada in the gold medal, honestly. But tonight's about tonight. Tonight's about the Four Nations. I'm not worried about the Rangers game in Buffalo. I can worry about that tomorrow. I'm not worried about the Rangers run, Igor out, any of that. I really, really, really want to win this game. And as always, what happens when I watch U.S. hockey, I'm now really a big fan of all the players on the team. Steven, you wrote it in the group chat, and I thought it was hysterical. Like, when would you expect any of us three to be watching Jack Hughes and scream shoot? I'm pretty agnostic to Austin Matthews. I think he's a great player. I'm not like a huge fan of his. Now I'm a huge fan of him. Like once you put on the U.S. jersey and I watch you, like I'm gonna be following these guys the rest of the season.
See, you said, by the way, you go back to when you talked about the last U.S. Canada game. You said you thought Canada played a lot better. I disagree wholeheartedly. I thought the U.S. completely shut it down in the third, and it was funny. When I watched that game, I was sitting thinking about like if I was watching a Ranger game, like I couldn't turn that off and just waiting for the bad thing to happen. And then I sat there and I was like, oh, these are the best players on the planet that are playing right now. This isn't Ryan Lindgren going out there in the third period. Like every defensive pair is a first defensive pair. Yeah. And the appreciation now that guys like Jacob Slavin are getting for being this shutdown defenseman, he's never going to put up 40, 50 points in a season, but he shuts down a game. And the first, like, you can't argue that Canada's got the talent, more talent, at least at the top end with McDavid and Crosby and Makar. But the United States seems like they're playing just a complete game. And I feel like that's how they built the team. You know, when guys like Kreider got put on the team as opposed to Caulfield or Tage Thompson, like, it was very clear that the U.S. wanted to play a specific style of hockey. And maybe we didn't necessarily see it or believe it until that Canada game. Nobody thought that 3 fights were going to happen in the first 9 seconds.
Chaos.
But it showed that the U.S. built their team around just grit and running through someone's face. And that's it's worked. And I would be very shocked if they're not playing as physical, if not even more physical in the game tonight. I mean, Charlie McAvoy, screwed up his AC joint in the Finland game and still threw 4 meaningful hits in the first period against Crosby and McDavid.
Very meaningful. I mean, that one hit is the reason that Gensel had that first goal that got USA on the board after McDavid started the scoring. But, like you kind of mentioned Slavin, right? I think the three of us and a lot of people that are watching actively and are, invested in the NHL know how good Jacob Slavin is defensively. I don't think that's a secret. But the people that are more casual, that don't have that same investment, don't necessarily get to see how good Jacob Slavin is nightly. And I think I've said it for a couple of years now. I think he's the best defensive, shutdown defenseman in the league, and that's coming from a Rangers fan. So there's a lot of respect there. But when I saw the beginning of this tournament and I saw the names on the top of the rosters, primarily these two teams, right, Canada and USA, I thought we were going to be seeing 35, 40 shots a night. I thought we were going to be seeing a ton of offense. And that really hasn't been the case. We've seen offense, but the shots on goal in all of these games are pretty low. It's been a lot more close checking than I thought it was going to be. Forget the close checking. People are running through each other. Like that Brady Tkachuk hit on Drew Doughty. You see it in every single game. There's players that are just running through it. A lot more block shots than I thought they were going to be. And sometimes that's a little scary. And you got a lot of guys that are just sacrificing their body as if this was the offseason right now. And they don't have to go back to their team this weekend and play another 30 NHL games. So it's really awesome to watch. But tonight's game is going to definitely come down to the difference that USA can make defensively. Steven kind of alluded to it from game one. Canada dictated the play a little bit more in the first and second period, but the U.S. was angling them off. They were cornering them. They were making sure that they weren't getting anything off the rush. If the U.S. can't do that tonight and without McAvoy's physical presence, it's going to be a much different game. I can tell you that. So the defensive side, and I know it's crazy to say in a Four Nations tournament highlighted by all these great offensive superstars, but it's the defensive side of the puck. And it's not just the defensemen. It's the offensive forwards, the guys like Matthews and the guys that you don't expect to be necessarily worried too much on the defensive end have to step up. And like you mentioned, Chris Kreider scoring his first shift, and he actually is in the lineup tonight in the championship game in replacement Kyle Connor, which if you told me that before game one, I would have said you're absolutely nuts. But the Rangers will have all 4 of their players participating in this game tonight. It's pretty cool.
If you need a reason to root for the U.S., if you don't have one and you're a Ranger fan, just know that all 4 Rangers in this game are on Team USA. None of them are on Canada. So
Correct.
If you need any more incentive.
Yeah, I think for Team USA to win this game, they have to find somewhat of another level offensively that they can find. And again, I'm going to circle a guy that you would never think that we'd be rooting for, but I think a lot of it comes down to Jack Hughes. So far this tournament, I think he's left a lot to be desired. I've even had, Devils fans, talk to me about the fact that they don't love the fact that in games like this, sometimes he gets pushed around. He goes like 110% of his speed, which causes him to be out of whack. He's throwing passes this way, that way, and the other way. And it's really caused sometimes for who may be our best player, Austin Matthews, to look invisible at times because his line mates haven't been playing, their A-plus game. But, I mean, I found a lot of classic Rangers in that first Canada game where we played structure on defense. We scored when we had our opportunities and we were finishing. We out-goaled the other team. Even though we played the way we wanted to play in the third period, the ice was slanted. The ice was slanted, and it was one of those cases where we got to hold off 2-1 and then try and score an empty net. That was the plan. And when you have the skill that USA has, you can win games like that because you can win games defensively. If you win a game defensively, it's just as cool as winning a game offensively, albeit not that exciting. but you really can't sit back on your heels for 18 minutes and just let McKinnon, let McDavid, and let Crosby dictate play, where I think offensively we got to push a little more. And I'm looking for that Hughes-Matthews combo to play the way that they played in that first game, where even though they didn't score early on, they had a lot of opportunities. I think Hughes had like 3 shots and Matthews had like 3 shots in that first period, and they were flying around. But Jack Hughes is a very, very important player tonight because if you look at the differences between the teams, we have the grit and they have the skill and the speed probably. But Jack Hughes is that one player that can bring that speed and can bring that skill. And he may be the fast, besides McDavid, the fastest player on the ice. And I don't watch that much Devils, but he is a treat to watch, as much as I hate to say it, when he gets the puck on his stick. And I think he's got to do something tonight. I think the Matthews-Hughes tandem at least has to put in a goal. But who knows? I say that with, the U.S. is the team that's getting performance from their depth, where Canada has been the team where if it's not their top 6, they're really not getting it from anyone else. So, we're going to name names. We're going to talk about players. But as we always know in these big games, game 6s, game 7s, what's now, I guess, somewhat of a gold medal match, it could end up being anybody. Like even last game, it was Dylan Larkin. It could end up being Jake Sanderson with a slap shot from the blue line, Like in these games, the most random people show up. You really need all 18 guys and your goalie playing for 60 minutes. And the U.S. is going to need that type of performance against a team that I think we can all admit probably from the skill side has more than us. Maybe from a star power has more than us in names, but if we score goals and are able to just stick in that defensive structure, because I do think our defense is like our defenders are defensively better than Canada, we can win a game like that again. It may not be the prettiest game, but just because we were playing that style, even though I say it's Rangers-esque, we can do that in a positive standpoint where it's even if it seems like the ice is tilted and we're holding on, that can still be us dictating play, like Steven said, because of the defenders that we have and because of the fact that, like you said, Brendan, we were cornering them off. We were causing them to go to the outside. That it is super important for, I think, USA to get out to a lead tonight because it allows us to play to our strengths at that point. Goaltending and defense is the U.S. strengths over Canada in this game.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that the U.S. is the only team in this tournament that actually got over 30 shots on goal in a game. So you can look at them to continue doing that, right? They're trying to put the puck on net and they're trying to limit the opposing shots. And
that doesn't even count posts, right? What do we have, 7 posts?
5, I think, or 5 or 6 against Sweden. And they lost 2-1 in that game. So I think U.S. is really on par with what they want to do. But Steven, what's up? I know you wanted to say something.
No, I was my phone overheated, so I lost the navigation of where I'm going, and I have no earthly idea where I am. I know where we are. So we're gonna figure that out. Don't you worry. But I think what I wanted to get at is like part of this tournament is being able to see and hear like the perspective of other teams' fans. Like a guy like Austin Matthews, you're used to seeing him score, and that's like what he's known for. 69 goals last year. But what I heard a lot of from Maple Leafs fans, and because he's got no points, no goals, but the way he affects the game defensively is something that they've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Everyone's back checking. Everybody's back checking. It's like it's fun when you get the skill.
This kid and his mic. He's trying to say it's fun when you have the skill aspect, but everybody is actually busting their ass to get.
Yeah, it's like imagine if you'd like to see not to bring it back to the Rangers because I said I don't really care about them until tomorrow, but like if they just had this effort, like they have the skill to match it, and even like Steven said about the 4 players of the Rangers on this team, I'm specifically going to talk about Trocheck and Miller. When they're on the Rangers, they're expected to bring the offense and do really everything from a forward standpoint. It's really cool to see players accept their role. Those 2 are the top 2 on the penalty kill. Those guys are back checking. Those guys are put on the ice a lot to be defensive forwards. And even the Larkin goal was because Miller had a good stick. and Miller kind of broke that up in our defensive zone, which kind of sprung that. So it's cool to see the skill, the effort, and guys really accepting their roles. And we'll probably see it from Chris Kreider tonight. Out of nowhere, he'll be back checking, he'll be playing defense, he'll be throwing his body around, and it's the perfect combination, something like this to show off the sport.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that it took this long for Kreider to get in the lineup. Not because I think he's better than people that are currently on the roster, but if you look at his playoff numbers, primarily over the last 3 years, he thrives in games like this. And then, of course, the one game he gets in, first shift, he pots a goal, the only goal that U.S. scores in the game. So when I saw that happen, I kind of had the gut feeling that Sullivan, who was his assistant coach with the New York Rangers, was going to put him back in the lineup tonight. Now, I didn't know that Kyle Connor was going to be the guy that comes out. It's a little bit surprising. I know he's had a quiet tournament, but he's still Kyle Connor. The guy could shoot, he could play, he's got speed. But Chris Kreider does the little things, and he's somebody that will go to the front of the net, go to those hard areas, tip pucks in. And in a game where you're playing Canada, who's going to be pissed off, one, because you beat them just last week, but they're also going to be looking to prove that they are still the number one hockey nation, right? And if they lose not only to the U.S. once, but twice in the tournament and once in the finals, that's going to be a tough pill for them to swallow. So you need to have those guys that have been in these big games, that have played well, that have proven that they are willing to go to those areas. And I think Kreider, in the midst of what I think we all can agree is probably a down year, is somebody that could benefit greatly. If he has a good game today in the finals, contributes in any way, shape, or form, and can carry that forward into the remainder of the season for the Rangers, I think that's going to be huge for the Rangers, not only Team USA. What on earth is that?
Sounds like a dying cat, but
is that one of those robotic cars?
No, it's that guy. Yeah, it's that guy.
Jesus. You got to tell him to change those brakes, man.
But I
no,
think
it was him spinning out.
But I think the Kyle Connor point is like another thing with like playing your role and stuff like that. Like maybe if he's a top 6 player, he might fit better for this team than Chris Kreider. But as we saw last game, I think the role for Kyle Connor became like a bottom 6 forward role. And like you said, Brendan, I think Kreider can maybe do the little things that play into that role better than Kyle Connor can. And yeah, coming into this tournament, I'm very surprised. I mean, I'm someone that the first game I bet on Kyle Connor to score the first goal. I thought the line he was playing on was almost perfect for a guy with the shot and the goal scoring ability as him. But over the course of the 3 games, you kind of find your roles, you find different line combos. I know at first the Kachuk brothers weren't together, and then we quickly put them together. Adam Fox was, the first power play guy, and now it's Werenski, and the power play looks a lot better. But yeah, both teams now are going to be different than even the teams we saw on Saturday, and definitely the teams for each of them that we saw in their first game. So this is one of those games. Throw everything out the window. I do agree with you, Brendan. I've said it a few times to my friends today. It's honestly a plus for Canada that they lost that first game. I truly think that. I think they're going to be pissed off. You've even seen comments from really soft-spoken guys about how pissed they were right after the game. They were like, I'm going to see those guys again. We're going to see those guys again. So when everything is so close and you're looking for any little margin or any extra oomph to get you over that finish line, I honestly think losing is better, or it gives you something. But to the other end, what U.S. can buy into is the fact that they've already beaten these guys. They already beat these guys when the other team score first, so there should be no adversity that they can't get over when playing these guys. So it really is a flip of the coin. The line being minus 110 is truly what this game is. I even saw the betting handle was like 51-49, so people are throwing money on both sides. This has the chance to really be an instant classic. When you just look up and down the lineup, it's really like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. And throughout history, we've seen that those matchups can go either way.
Now, can I say that the USA has scored first in one game in this tournament? That was against Sweden when they lost. And they scored second in the other 2 games that they won. So if they allow the first goal tonight and you're somebody that's into the middle of the Vegas scene and you like to bet a little bit, maybe take that live bet and say, I'm going to try to make some extra cash on it. But I will caution that by saying this is a Canada team that scored first in that first game against USA, relinquished it, and they're going to be pretty keen on not doing that again. So I'm not really going to bet this game. I'm just going to go watch, enjoy, and I think this is going to be chaotic. And I don't mean chaotic in the sense of the last meeting where there was 3 fights, a bunch of hits in the first period. I think it's going to be chaotic from a hockey sense this game, and I think it's going to be 2 really good rosters that are just going head-to-head. and showcasing what they could do. And honestly, Connor Hellebuck, right? You talked about Kyle Connor from Winnipeg getting scratched this game. Connor Hellebuck from Winnipeg has had a miserable run of it in the playoffs.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden he's in a gold medal type game against Canada after having beat them once already. He's going to have to come up big. He's going to have to be the Connor Hellebuck that we have not seen in a postseason game, this time in a gold medal game. So that's a question mark for me. I know everybody's sitting here saying U.S. goaltending significantly better than the Canada goaltending, but Jordan Binnington's been to a Stanley Cup final and won it. Connor Hellebuck has been miserable in the postseason. So he's kind of proved doubters wrong throughout the first 3 games, but there's something to be said for 3 round robin games, and there's another thing to be said for a final game. So it looks like Steven is finally situated.
And those goalies are kind of
I'm situated. I'm going to stay in the car.
Those goalies are kind of opposites, right? Where like I agree with everything you're saying. Like Connor Hellebuck has, the Vezinas, he has like the regular season play, but it seems like whenever he gets, to the playoffs, he kind of shits the bed, especially recently. Where Binnington has that Game 7 performance and that run where makes you think that throw out the stats for a guy like that in a game like this, he just like raises his level. That you definitely can't assume that you're going to get the better goaltending if you're USA. But what I will say is I think that's one of the things at the top of the list in terms of what USA needs to do in order to win this game. I don't see a scenario where Binnington outplays Hellebuck by a significant margin and USA has a chance to win. I don't see that happening anyway, but if that does happen, c'est la vie, Canada's going to win the game and potentially by a decent amount. But one of the things that the USA needs is for Hellebuck to show up. And he was great in that first Canada game. It seemed like both goalies, it was like flurries in the first 2 periods of like, especially the second period is a lot of like back checking, a lot of good defense. And then all of a sudden, like a minute, there'd be like 3 or 4 shots from point blank. And both goalies played very, very well at that. I think within chaos, it's going to be low scoring. I think these games tend to be. I think there'll be some tightness to start the game, and then there'll be that second period that will go back and forth, and maybe it opens up in the third period. But I think it's just going to be a game where like everyone's finding their spot. Nobody's back checking, not at 100%. It's going to be tough to find room on the ice tonight. So if you're a hockey purist and you love hockey, this is going to be probably from that standpoint of just technicality and skill and all of that good stuff, regardless of what the score says, just like a very, very pleasing hockey game to watch. The other hand side of it is without the fighting, if you're, just a casual watcher who's looking for, a 6-5 game with a million shots and wide open ice both ways, you may not find that. But if you love hockey and you know what it's about, a 2-1 battle with, not a lot of shots, but the shots being high scoring opportunities, that's good hockey. And it's similar to football where, when you have 2 good defenses out there, it may not be pretty to, someone who doesn't watch a lot of football that wants to watch a 50-40 game, but, the defensive line, destroying the offensive line, getting to the quarterback, there is some beauty in that. And I think that's what we're going to see in tonight's hockey game. But the other side of that is both teams have so much offensive skill that at times they're going to break through, right? Like McDavid's going to get his chances. Matthews is going to get his chances. The Tkachuk brothers are going to get their chances. McKinnon's going to get his chances. So within, this could be a game where for 15 minutes, the teams are like back checking, and 10 minutes throughout the whole game is just complete chaos. But that 10 minutes is just going to be of epic proportions when you're naming the guys that I just named.
Well, you go back, we mentioned Chris Kreider a while ago, but you go back and all, maybe outside of Adam Fox, and I know that feeds the haters, but the Kreiders, the Millers, and the Trocheks play playoff style hockey. And in a 4-team tournament, those are the guys that are the shitheads. They're the guys that run people. They get in front of the net. They do the dirty things to make plays, and that's what makes them so successful when the Rangers are in the postseason. But it also it lets them thrive whether they're getting points or not. It was great to see Kreider scoring his first shot. It was incredible. But like Miller's impacted the game without putting up. I don't think he has any points. If maybe an assist.
I don't think he does.
He didn't get the assist on that. Yeah, he didn't. But he made the play. Yeah.
Trocheck doesn't have a point. Like those are guys that play from the forward group at least. Like straight ahead hockey that will dump the puck behind you, go hit you, and then when the puck's in the offensive zone, Kreider will stand in front of the net, Trocheck will be there for a rebound, Miller will be there for a rebound, and just from a Rangers side makes that team and those lines very successful. Kyle Connor has been, halfway decent in the postseason, nothing to really write home about. Chris Kreider is a postseason legend when it comes to the New York Rangers. Like, he is made for big games and has played well in the big games. So it's crazy that we're I don't want to use the term glazing, but like we shit on the Rangers all the time. But now we're sitting here in an international best on best tournament, and we're talking up these guys that for most of the year we talk shit about. But I don't want to lose the fact that look at the Team USA games, and I know this is basically a game 7, so anything can happen. But 1 goal, 2 goals with Jake Ottinger in goal. Canada's given up 3. They gave up 2 with an empty netter against the United States, and you have 3 to Finland. Like, it wasn't like Binnington was shut down. He was shut down for 2 periods. Then as soon as Finland started to get some offense, he was very leaky. And the defense of Canada was very leaky at the end of that game against Finland.
Yes, it was.
It's not like this Team Canada is not like this complete shutdown. You're not going to see the 2010 semifinal where the U.S. are going to have 10 shots on goal and never really have a chance to score. That game ended 1-0. Canada beating the U.S. in Vancouver.
In overtime. Yep.
I'm not. I'm thinking the wrong one. I'm thinking Sochi. I mean, the semifinal in Sochi game ended 1-0, but the United States were never in that game. Never once in that game. The Team Canada, the defensive group was unbelievable. I think Team USA, and it sounds stupid to say, I think they're the better team. I guess it's hard to beat a team twice is my only hang up right now. But I think Team USA from top to bottom, from first line to fourth line, from first pair to third pair, from goalie to backup goalie, they're the better team. It's not like a stupid thing to say. Team USA or Team Canada just has the higher end talent. But it is what it is. We're gonna see this game in an hour and a half. So all the talking, all of our dumbasses will lean to that game.
Well, I have a hot take that I want to say. It might not be a hot take, but it's a hot take from an American. But before I get into that, if the U.S. wins tonight, right? And the reason I say if is because it is an if. I know you might have confidence, but this is still Canada you're talking about. If they win tonight without Quinn Hughes or Charlie McAvoy on the back end, and with a roster that doesn't feature that next wave of young American talent like the Tage Thompsons and the Cole Caulfields, how much of a statement is it really? Not only for the fact that they're winning this tournament, but for the fact that next year when these guys are actually participating in the Olympics, it's not going to be the same group of guys. It's going to be a much more skilled team, I think, especially on the back end, because McAvoy, we saw what his impact was early on. We haven't seen Quinn Hughes in this tournament. He's arguably the best defenseman for the United States right now. You haven't seen what the young guys like a Caulfield and Tage Thompson could bring to the lineup. It's not going to stop with them, right? You go to the World Cup of Hockey 3 years from now, and there's going to be another wave of guys that are coming up. You look at the World Juniors, how the U.S. has won back-to-back, right? Those guys are going to all start to progress to get to the level of competing in these types of tournaments, especially if the NHL makes it a consistent mission to participate in it. And you're talking about Gabe Perreault, Hagens, Ryan Leonards, all those guys that are going to start to blossom. And I, for one, know that Canada has a ton of talent, but I feel like the top-end talent, primarily up front and in goal, has been consistently favoring the U.S. over the last couple of years. And I'm not talking about going back to the McDavids. I'm talking about recency bias, right? You have Connor Bedard that's not on the lineup for Canada. So there are guys that they're going to have there. But the goaltending has consistently been in favor of the U.S. And as Rangers fans, we know how that is something that can completely mitigate a bunch of other issues if you have the edge in goal every single time you play. So what do you guys think about that? If the U.S. can win tonight without 4 guys that a lot of people would argue would and should be in the lineup come the Olympics?
I think it absolutely makes a statement. You as a country have not won a best on best tournament since 96. You've won 2 since the fall of the Soviet Union. The last one being 1980. This isn't like the Team USA is in some best on best championships, but to sit here and win one, that's not something that happens very often. You're used to Canada, you're used to Russia, all these other countries winning. But again, you defer to Canada sometimes because when we talk about the Team USA not having some of their best players, Bedard, Macklin Celebrini not on the team. So it's not like Team USA's got all the young talent coming up. But I think the way Team USA wants to build a team, and you see it from World Juniors up, they're not necessarily the most talented group of individuals, but they're the guys that play together the best. And I don't think you're seeing that from the World Junior ranks all the way up to now Team Canada, where it's let's just get all the stars on. Let's just get the stars in the team and see how that goes. I think from a bottom up perspective, the USA have been able to build teams better than Canada has, at least in the last 3 to 4 years. Obviously historically that's not been the case, but the USA hasn't had the talent that it's had on top of that. And I think part of that has to come with the national development program. Like, these guys play with each other for years on end before they even get to World Juniors. And then they get to World Juniors, they play with each other again. And then, you go on, you play NHL, but you're able to have a rapport with these guys that you play with. Hockey Canada isn't doing that. You don't see a Canadian development program. That's just the OHL and everybody else, the CHL, and everybody plays on different teams. So the cohesiveness with the United States team is leaps and bounds better than the cohesiveness with Canada and just the Canadian hockey program from start to finish. It's a hill I'll die on it, and I might die on it at some point, because you think Canada will figure that out. They're too good of a hockey country to not do that. But I think it's a huge statement if the United States can come out and win this game tonight, whether it be a 2-1 game or if they, take them to the woodshed. I think I doubt seeing Team USA beating the shit out of Canada tonight. But, I have a feeling about this game, and, I'm going to bet Canada because I'm a mush. I'm going to bet Canada. I'm going to put that out there. But it's being a good citizen. It's being a good United States citizen.
It's just your tax dollars. Tax dollars at work.
It's exactly the tax dollars. But I will say I didn't bet. I was very close to betting Canada on Saturday and didn't do that. But I think for a game like this, I have to just to be a patriot. I got to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to bet a lot of money on the USA. I don't know what that's going to be, but and I'll probably parlay it with someone to get a point. But to your question, Brendan, I'm honestly not even thinking about those names. I think just tonight's game makes such a big statement. I wouldn't use it as a cop-out if we lost, that we didn't have those guys. If we win, I'm not even going to use it as we didn't even we beat you and these guys weren't even a part of it. If anything, winning kind of puts more pressure on those guys, like you're saying, to carry the torch next Olympics, because those are some really good guys that some people even thought wouldn't be towards the chopping block of the team. Some people think that those are some of the better, guys that should have been on the team without any question. And there's certainly a ton of names. I know Jason Robertson's another one that people thought should have made the team and may have a chance at the Olympics.
Oh God,
he's making points. He's spitting, but
Mike doesn't want it. I talk. This thing gets unplugged, but no, it's such a big game. And the thing about USA, it's almost don't even bring up those 4 guys. Don't even bring up any name. The names don't even matter. It's just whoever you put on the ice with the USA jersey has to win. And regardless if you're on the team or you're not on the team, it's really a win for the entire country. And it really does set up next Olympics so beautiful. No matter what happens, the drum. In the fucking face.
It's not even working.
It's not working?
It's very, very low. All right, I'm going to speak while you figure that out really quick.
I have it now.
It's all right. It's all right.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to and then I'll stop because it'll probably go. No matter what happens this game, all the commercials are going to be this game for the next Olympics, drumming up this rivalry. So this is, again, as someone who wasn't into the 4 Nations before it started, this has been incredible. So much more than I imagined. I'm so fucking hyped for tonight, but it really just creates that great appetizer for the Olympics next year, where getting this to be Canada, the USA, months in advance before that starts, there's just going to be showing highlights of this game, especially if it comes down to, the
like the final moments, which it probably will. Whichever team has heartbreak, they're just going to be filling that through the advertising and showing it over and over again. So, no matter who the names are on this one or next one, this game matters because it's going to last at least till the next Olympics, because it kind of like connects in that way over the next, 12-month span. I don't know when the next Olympics actually starts in Italy. But it's almost like the same living beast that you have to live with yourself for the next year, knowing that, you have a chance. And it's just going to be an unbelievable event that if you win, you're going to feel unbelievable tomorrow. And if you lose, you're literally going to buy a calendar where you circle the date that the Olympics start. And each day you're going to be putting an X on it, because I believe that, the players are just going to be counting down to that after what they experienced in this basically week and a half.
Before we head out, I want to give you guys a trivia question. And it was given to me by our good friend Johnny Lazarus in Montreal last week. And I will tell you this, not a soul, and there were some very good hockey minds that were there when this question was asked. Not a soul got it right. So without looking it up, and I'll give it to the chat too. I'll give it to the chat. Shout out Zane. That's one of my good friends went to high school with. Absolute legend. Great point too. So he gave me this question. Who was the captain the last gold medal Team USA played for? In 2010, who was the captain of that team?
Parisi?
No, that was 2014, but you're on the right track.
Stevens?
No, too old.
Jesus.
He played the hints that we got were his team now plays in the Metro, and he won 2 Stanley Cups.
Eliash? No, that's not American. He's not American.
That's a tough guess, man.
He's not American. Patrick Kane. Oh, no. He won 3 Patrick Kane, right?
My first guess before I was given a hint was Rob Brindamore. So you can go with that one, and he's Canadian, so.
Wait, what was – so Parisi wasn't the captain the year that he scored that goal?
2014
he just scored that goal?
Yeah.
This is interesting. I'm trying to think about the names that I can.
I'm just thinking of the Metro.
That I could say without.
You were very hot. You were very warm with Zach Parise. I'll tell you that.
So it's a devil. Yeah, it is a devil, right? And it wasn't Scott Stevens? Who's the defenseman on the Devils?
Well, I'll give you one more hint because I know we got to get off at 4:45.
Oh my God, I know who it is.
Yeah.
And the reason I remember this is because I actually watched him get stoned by Henrik Lundqvist in the 8th round of a shootout at the Prudential Center. Jamie Langenbrunner.
Yep, Jamie Langenbrunner. The strangest captain you'll ever find for an international team. Jamie Langenbrunner.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Well,
none of us got it. It was a fantastic question.
That's a great question because, like you said, out of all the names that you could think of American players in 2010, Jamie Langenbrunner, very good player, but not the guy that you would think would be the captain.
Yo, I don't even know who that is. I'm just gonna put my hands up.
He's a great player for the Devils.
I'll give you one more before we head off. Zach Parise led the team in points with 8. There was another guy that led the team in points with 8 as well. Think Devils. Who was it?
And it wasn't Langenbrunner.
It was not.
Was it Brian Rafalski?
It was Brian Rafalski.
Wow.
Two crazy goals.
That one I got quick. Yeah, that one I know.
Two crazy pulls.
Before we end it, I do want to say that I personally, and this is not anything to do against Boston, I just think that Montreal's lit. I would have liked to see the tournament reversed where the last 2 games were in Montreal because that atmosphere was sick, man.
As someone that was there, dude, it was the Canada game was the best game I've ever been to. Easily, hands down.
Adam Silver doesn't have to pay me for this idea, and it's not my idea. I just absolutely love it. He'll never do it because Trump would hate it, and Silver would lose a lot of money. The NBA All-Star Game should be U.S. International in like Spain or one of these other countries where the basketball games are absolutely absurd, like soccer games, and like the internationals would definitely play hard. So like the U.S. team would have to play hard because they wouldn't want to get their doors run off. But I think if you put like USA versus international, where FC Barcelona plays their basketball games, that would be absurd. And like people got the idea from Montreal.
Put them in Serbia, dude. Have you seen the Serbian fans? They're nuts.
Anywhere that's EuroLeague.
It would be sick. But listen, guys, this has been fun. It was probably the most chaotic episode we've ever done just because of all 3 of our situations. We had Zoom.
I'm getting a new mic next week.
driving around Arizona. But I will leave it at this. The U.S. has made 5 best-on-best finals against Canada, and they have lost 4 of them. So will the fortunes change tonight at the Four Nations?
Water finds its level, baby. Water finds its level.
Play Freebird.
Play Freebird, and we have to say, you guys have to give a prediction because we end every show with Rangers predictions. U.S.
3-2. 3-2. We're down 2-1 going into the third period.
4-1 United States, 2 empty netters.
2-1 United States in overtime.
Wow.
I want to sweat.
So we know what happens.
I want to sweat. All right. Well, I think we all had to say U.S. because it's really, we can't say Canada, but it's going to be a great hockey game. This has been a great tournament, massive success for the NHL. We don't give them props often, but this one actually hit the nail on the head. We have generated a ton of viewership. It has been an absolute joy to watch these teams battle, and hopefully the World Cup of Hockey in 2028, the Olympics in 2026 can live up to the continued hype from this tournament. But tonight's game is going to be something special. If you were not planning on tuning in, I hope the last couple of weeks have changed that, and we will see you all next Thursday when we decide and discuss.
Go Rangers.
Tonight, we skate with them, and we
Go
shut
Rangers.
them down because we can.
Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world.
Let's go.
We'll leave it at that.
Let's say, baby.
See ya.
Peace.
See you guys.